A good conversation can shift the direction of change forever. Would you leave it to chance? Join the authors of Design to Change and explore this series of conversations with designers and event owners. Driven by the need and conversations with event owners and event designers who use the event canvas around the world, this series explores the depths of conversations to elevate your abilities to look and act beyond the now. Episodes are hosted by Ruud Janssen, Roel Friesen, Dennis Lehrer, and Paul Rukens, with illustrious changemakers, designers, and pioneers in the field of design and beyond. To explore these conversations and additional content, visit designtochange.online. For now, let's start the conversation.
All right, welcome back. We're here at IMEX. It's day one. It's the 19th of May, 2026. My name is Ruud Janssen. I'm one of the hosts for the podcast here. Around us, you will hear lots of noise and things that are happening, but we're in focus mode.
Right.
And joining us today, together with my colleague Gerrit Jessen, we have Kitty Wong, who's the president of the Expo Union Corporation in Taiwan and K&A International Company Limited. As well as we have Rosa Liu,
Yes.
who's a CMP, a CEM, and a CIS, the director at Meet Taiwan, which is the Taiwan MICE project office for the Ministry of Economic Affairs. And we're here gathered in Frankfurt together with our colleague Gerrit Jessen. But the first thing I do need to ask, right, which is a very serious question, is this question that was just played in the jingle. A good conversation can determine the direction of change forever. Kitty, would you leave it to chance?
Of course. Change is here to stay. Nothing changed, nothing happened.
Wow, powerful answer. Change is here to stay, right? And we're capturing this conversation because this is a moment in time that will never happen again, right? And the serendipity now brings us together. Now, let me throw it to you, Rosa, because a good conversation can determine the direction of change forever. Would you leave it to chance?
Yes.
You would?
Yeah. And I think the change is the only thing that unchanged.
Change is the only thing that is unchanged, which is a powerful thing, right? Because, yeah, we talk about change all the time, and then people tell us, you know, if you talk about change management or change, you should never use the word change, which is confusing because how do you talk about change if you can't use the word change, right? Which is confusing. Now, Gerrit, I'm going to throw the ball to you because this podcast here, was this left to chance?
No, it was. It has a long history because a friend of mine, Achim von Hake, who I've known since very early business days, knows Rosa and Kitty, and so what happened is that he connected us. In fact, due to I having kept contact with him for ages. Mm-hmm. So this is why we now having this conversation here in Frankfurt, and Achim was basically the missing link between the four of us.
Yeah.
So a connector from a traineeship from the other end of the planet that now connects the four of us here in Frankfurt. We were just sharing anecdotally, Kitty, you were telling us about your last podcast episode, which featured an event that you host. Can you tell us a little bit about that podcast and why you were invited on it?
Well, I organized the Taipei Marathon Expo. Mm-hmm. It's an expo, it's been 10 years. And it's very successful because Taipei Marathon is one of the marathons that is being produced very nicely. I used to be a runner myself, mm-hmm. So I went to all these runs, and I saw Expo. You have to be really big marathon to own a Expo.
Right.
So I thought, why don't we have one? So I approached the organizer. I said, I'm going to do an expo for your marathon. He said, are you kidding me? Well, that was
so you initiated the expo.
Yeah, I did.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And how, I mean, that is the event owner's ultimate challenge, right? Like, you see an opportunity, you have a common care, in this case, mm-hmm. you know, marathon running. You see an opportunity, and then you say, we should create an expo, we should create an event.
Myself, that I organize events and exhibitions. So I have to do some survey and how many people are running in this this marathon and how eager they are to learn.
Yeah.
And are they? Do they have the money to spend?
Mm-hmm.
So all these surveys I have to do in advance.
Yeah.
I thought that they are the right TA. So our Marathon Expo, the TA is 95%.
Wow. So, with that in mind, knowing that event ownership is probably one of the hardest jobs on the planet besides being a parent, I think, right? Or maybe a kid of a parent. I don't know. Both are maybe
A
challenging
teenager.
equally, right? We were just chatting a little bit about, the 80s. You were saying that, Gerrit, where, you've connected across this. How, when you pick up these conversations over time, because you have a regular cadence, you mentioned that with your colleague, why is that regular cadence there, and how regular is it? Just out of curiosity.
I think it's pretty regular, and for me that's one of the good things of social media. Is even through physical distance, you stay connected, and obviously then through friends. So these are two things, and social media propels that connection. But I think the ultimate initial drive to stay connected is that time having spent life together. I don't think that I would have stayed friends with Achim over all these years if we only would have met through 3 Zoom calls.
Yeah.
Or writing letters.
Or for that matter, yes.
Yeah. And so, a shared experience that you have together, maybe some hardships also, right? When you go through traineeships, or when you go through executive education, for instance. We were just talking about that a little bit, Rosa. So you've done a number of these professional certifications in your career. Is executive education something? Sorry?
I was forced to.
You
do
were
that
forced to.
by my boss.
So, what kind of connections do you make when you go to these types of training programs? How do you reflect on that experience for yourself?
Actually, I was one of the person in charge of one of the biggest trade shows in Taiwan. It's called Computex. You know, Janssen Wong
Yes.
will visit Taipei every time in coming
Past 5
Yeah.
years.
next
month.
Next
month, yeah.
next month.
Computex, yeah.
So I was in charge of the Computex about 12 years ago.
Wow.
And at the time, my boss,
Mm-hmm.
he thought that I should study more about the theory. Yeah. So
The theory behind it.
yeah, theory behind it. So I was asked to take the CEM.
Yeah.
And then they say, oh, you have already got CEM. You need to improve yourself to get the CMP and CIS. So I have done all these 3 together. Yeah.
Wow. So that's a whole series of credentials that you do. Kitty, I see also that you are, ISO certified in the organizations that you operate. Why is that important to you?
Well, they call me a green lady back in the 80s. I'm pretty old. I'm
She's
an old
green
goat.
ladies in Taiwan, actually.
I organized the green industry show in Taiwan. It was 2004.
Okay.
And back then, nobody knew about what Go Green means.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit struggling, It's people don't understand exactly what you're doing, so it's kind of hard. But I think the Earth is evolving, it's changing, so you have to really adopt into it. So I continue to push this in my events, all my events, especially the PCO part, the association meetings. I insist that you have to follow my rules instead of I follow yours.
Yeah.
And that's why that I'm built of a reputation that I go sustainability. I mean, I have to go for it. Mm-hmm.
And for all the listeners, Kitty's wearing the United Nations SDGs badge. Okay, so that just proves the point.
Well, it's already in my blood.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think I want to share a little thing about Kitty, because she's the green lady back in maybe 20 or 15 years ago, and she pushed the government to put more resources in the sustainability in Taiwan. So until now, we have already got about 56 or almost 60 ISO certified in the MICE industry in Taiwan.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you see that the public-private collaboration, but also the initiatives that you take can have an impact on how the guidelines are formed in the future, or how good behavior or behavior in the desired direction of change can be shaped and can be structured based on an inspiring model instead of just on a mandated model, right? So,
but you have to be brave.
You have to be brave.
Yeah.
Tell us, Kitty, how do you become brave? What's the magic formula?
Well, if I insisted in this is right, I would go for it. Although I'm tiny, I'm an Asian woman. I just go for it. People would see. Eventually.
Eventually. Sometimes they don't see it at first, but as you mentioned,
keep working.
You keep pushing, but also inspiring, I guess, right? The ability to, the green lady sounds like something that, in your appearance today, you have a very elegant appearance in a cream cream color, which is, for the listeners, it's always hard to imagine what it's like. But you can check the pictures. We'll upload some pictures.
Kitty Wong from Taiwan. And
exactly.
you have her pictures. Yeah.
Live from Hall 9 here at IMEX. Now. We could have, back in the 1980s, maybe even have met in Taiwan, because as we were just sharing, at the time we paid a visit to Taipei and Kaohsiung, my family and I, and interestingly enough, then we did not meet, and there's probably a reason for that, right? We had to go all the way to 2026 here today in Frankfurt in Hall 9, where Gerrit orchestrated this conversation, which I think can influence the direction of change. May I ask a question to you both? Because the book talks about the horizons of change, right? The things that are ahead of us. What are some of the things on your horizon of change? Maybe if I can, and this is an unprepared, unscripted question, right? But I'm asking Kitty, and maybe she thinks of something, and I'll pass the question to you next. But is there something on the horizon of change, maybe a year or a couple of years out, that you're kind of looking at and thinking about? Ooh, that's something interesting that I'd like to explore a little bit more of. Kitty, what's in your horizon of change?
This is the 25th years that I come to IMEX.
Wow.
Whoa.
And every single time I came, I have no hope of bringing things back.
Okay.
But somehow there's always some discoveries.
Oh.
So I could make use of, or I could have an idea of new way of doing things. Mm-hmm. Because I'm never afraid of being changed or the change approach that I get scared. Just like the COVID.
Yeah.
When the COVID hit, and my staff was very scared because we're going to lose the jobs and we're going to lose a lot of conferences.
Yeah.
I said, I was interviewed by a media. He says, mm-hmm. What do you think about this COVID?
Yeah.
I said, excited. Because the change is there, and you don't know what to anticipate it. Just like World War II, when you're into this war for 2 months. Back then, that was 2 months. I said, you don't know when are you coming out of it. Even the day before, you didn't know the war is going to end. So it's very exciting. So I always approach things that way. I have an open mind that anything is possible to me. So
and as a result,
I'm more
you make
curious.
things possible.
I keep floating with the change, and so I feel very comfortable changing.
Any discoveries so far on day one? I appreciate it's just day one here at IMEX, right? Tuesday, 19th of May, 2026. Have you come across anything that you think, this is something I might take back?
Yeah, I found you.
Oh, look at that. Are you taking us back? Back to Taiwan? It's been a while. It's been a while. But we'd love that. And I think, this discovery, you were just saying that when COVID hit, similarly, Gerrit, you were involved in this conspiracy as well. Roel and I and Dennis and the team at the Event Design Collective, we said, whenever something hits you that, it can be troubling or whatever it might be, there's two choices you can do, right? One of them is complain about it, and the other one is you can do something about it. And so when all those travel days were canceled, we were inspired to actually write a book called Design to Change. And the book is about conversations between event owners and event designers. And because you can't bottle up conversations in a book, we turned it into an event, which was an event called the EDC Mastermind Series, which got together some of these certified event designers in an online series of conversations and dialogues that would started offline already in 2019. And what they didn't know is that in that second edition of the Mastermind, the content and the curriculum of what we were talking about was actually the content of the book that we started writing at that time. And the book was written because after we taught a lot of people about the event design using the event canvas methodology, we also set them up with a pain, which we never realized. And the pain was that you can learn a new skill of learning how to apply event design and facilitate a fun process to come to much better event prototypes. But if you don't get permission from the event owner or the event's boss or the initiator of the event to actually go and apply it, I've just taught you a skill that you can't know, that you can't use. It's like teaching somebody to drive a car and then saying you can never own a car, or you're not allowed to drive the car, right? How does that make you feel? You can't practice it. And so we said that's really unfair, right? We can't get away with that. That's not okay. So we wrote a book about that very subject and how to have the conversation between the event owner and event designer. And we created visuals and an audiobook and augmented reality over the pictures, and there was worksheets and all sorts of things. And then we asked ourselves, but if the book is about conversations, we can't put conversations in a book.
Not really, no.
Right? What a ridiculous idea.
So creative.
So after the first sessions that we had, we actually it was a one-day program, and then we had 2 days later with a gap of a couple of days. And we did that on purpose because in the period of 2 weeks between the first day and the second and third day, we sent everybody that was on that program a personalized copy of the alpha version of the book, personalized to them with the curriculum of what we had discussed in day one.
Using AI?
No, this was before AI existed, because this was in 2021. Well, AI existed, but wasn't available to the masses, right? We had probably heard of AI, but we had never used it. But we had actually written the book, hardcore writing, like we'd been at this for a while. And we had quite a few travel days that fell out of our schedule, so we had time to kill. And COVID was a very productive time for writing. We'd practiced on the first book, the Event Design Handbook, so we knew how to write. We also had the editor who helped us take it. And we actually shaped conversations that we had from a very rough conversations. We boiled it back down to a chapter in the book. And so actually every chapter is a conversation distilled down to the essence by our editor. Poor guy, right? Because we went wild on those conversations. And then we tested it with the community during an event, right? So what better than to test the content of a book about events and event conversations with the people that are actually in the event and get them to critique the content of the book during the event. So the event was part of the making. And, again, because conversations can't be bottled up, we started a podcast. We're now in season 6. This is episode 229, if I'm not mistaken. And 6 years later, right, here we are having conversations about this very subject of design to change.
Yeah.
Now,
I never forget this one chapter of Paul Rukins where he told about the concept of the gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Because Kitty was just saying, what should I do if I have an association who doesn't believe in change? And then Paul said this, I always remember that a gatekeeper can always say no, but never can say yes. Okay, so how can you, in your design to change quest, bypass this gatekeeper in order to get to the person that can actually make that decision? And that was one of the chapters that person can actually say yes. So don't get stuck at the gatekeeper. Be creative. Find different ways to bypass the gatekeeper. That was sort of what stuck to my mind.
Well,
keep
my
them elegant.
experience is I always talk to the yes man, I mean the one who make the decision. And they're more of content with what they have. Yeah. And they don't embrace the change. Because they are clients, so I have to treat them politely, right? You cannot force them into anything.
Yes.
That is the difficulty. In fact, I try to sell the meeting design to one of my clients who I know very well. I organize quite a few events for them. Somehow he says no. So there's no gatekeepers. I went direct to the client that is the decision makers. I think in the West, you're more open and you're more flexible in change. In Asia, they are more content with what they have already. They embrace that. So with my reputation being changed all the time, I still cannot break that. I would want to try, but somehow it's not working yet. So I need the consensus from Meet Taiwan that if you go through your training sessions to train our clients, they trusted you more than I, right? So you may make this happen.
To give them more education.
Right.
Yeah.
They have a division that train the stakeholders, and they get subsidy from Meet Taiwan, so they have to listen at least because they're getting subsidies.
Yeah. And they're getting applause too, I heard. That was from the People and Planet area behind us, but it might be a serendipitous applause, who knows?
Yeah, because we need to change because we're very tiny, and with the threat from across the strait, we have to be more flexible. We have to try new things in order to stay alive.
Yeah, and that I think we discussed that also. That I set the example from our friends in Bangkok, right? That they trained. We trained 3 years ago, 20 odd people of their partners.
Who are they?
So the whole supply chain, basically, that is responsible for, at the end of the day, let's put it this way. I was a PCO for a while, as were you, Gerrit, where one of the things you look for when you go to a destination is what is the harmony and orchestration of the partners at destination level, and how well do they get along, and how oiled is that machine, right? How do they speak each other's language? Are they in each other's, instant messaging systems? Can they easily pick up the phone and talk to each other? Not when you need it for a site inspection, but when you need it when you're really in need, right? And this is where the tagline that's there under augmented event design, evidence-based event design at the speed of need, right? Sorry, my colleague Ingrid is just jumping away, because the speed of need doesn't wait for permission, right? When you need something, you need to have a reliable ecosystem of partners that you can, at the flick of a switch or at the press of a button on your phone, activate the superpowers of a destination, of those that know best and those that have a woven web of connections that's not new to the situation. It might be new to the situation, but to have a proven relationship over time that is time-tested and trusted, right? And maybe this is where the program that the book came out of is now called the EDC Trusted Advisor Program, where people can see at eye level with each other. And like Gerrit said, when a destination really puts their money where their mouth is in terms of getting people to speak the same language when it comes to designing events, being trusted advisors. I think we have destinations, for instance, like Thailand, who during COVID took that opportunity as well and said, we trained 3-4 cohorts there of all of their supplies chains partners at the most senior levels and then at the secondary and tertiary levels, so that they would all speak that same language. And the language came from a system, a process, right? Something that's tried and tested in any operating system, but can then be embedded in the way you interact on a local level. And I think that power has been demonstrated, and we'd love to see, that opportunity. Maybe the question before, this is not seeding a question, but Rosa, we were talking about horizons of change, right? And Kitty, you just informed us about yours. Can I ask you what's currently on your horizon of change, looking at maybe the next year or 2 years from today? What's currently on the horizon of change?
Oh, for my personally?
Personally, professionally, for Meet Taiwan, whichever angle you prefer to share with us and our listeners.
I will share some personal things.
Sure.
I want to move to another city.
Wow.
Yeah. To Europe.
Wow.
Wow.
Because in our organization we have 60 branches. It's overseas.
Yes.
One in Düsseldorf here.
Okay.
Yeah, and there is one there are others in other Europe cities.
Yes.
So I always want to have the chance to
Live abroad in a different.
Nice.
Wow. And so you're currently based in Taipei, and you said you were running the big trade show there for many years, and now with Meet Taiwan, and this opportunity of living abroad might be something on your horizon.
Yeah, because of my job here in our organization, I have a lot of opportunities or chances to go abroad to many other cities or countries.
Yes.
So it really opened my eyes and opened my heart. And I always want to live abroad for maybe 3 or 4 years.
Nice.
And I think maybe next year will be a good timing for me because my boy has already grown up.
Yeah.
I will pray for you.
For what?
For your dreams come
Okay.
true.
But I think it's not just about dreaming and praying is fantastic. We want all of those beautiful things, but could we make the change tangible, right? And one of the invitations we'd like to extend with you, which is something we do in this podcast, is we ask if we have permission to reach out to you a year from today and to reflect on. Sometimes we feel change is very slow, right? It's like, it takes such a long time.
We did that ages ago.
Yeah. But then next year, if we prompt you, maybe here at IMEX or online, we could do that, and we repeat this conversation, and we see how far the needle has moved on some of these things on our horizon of change, right? Can I ask you, Gerrit, what's on your horizon of change for this upcoming year, or maybe in relation to this conversation, what would be on your horizon of change?
I think I want to continue my quest, especially in Germany, of bringing organizations, especially associations, because I think the take-up in corporations embracing change is much faster. There's still a lot to be done within associations because they usually have voluntary boards who are elected for a year or maybe 2 years, and for them it's like, no, change by me, let's change later. So that's basically my quest to work with associations to get their association events to the next level and to make them understand that they also need to improve, because otherwise their numbers of participants will continue to go down because due to social media, whatever. Why should I be part of the organization when I can be part of a online platform? So that I think is the core is how can you make association events being family events? That's my
Powerful.
And more human touch engagement.
A very ambitious change.
Very ambitious. Gerrit is known to be ambitious, and Gerrit never ceases to surprise us. Also, maybe I can share one of my ambitions because it's been 41 years since I've last been to Taiwan, and maybe on my horizon of change, and something that might come out of this conversation.
True.
How might we, right? This is the platinum question we ask in our Trusted Advisor program. How might we fill in the blank, whilst at the same time fill in the blank, so that fill in the blank? That's the platinum question. So I'm going to formulate it, see if it makes sense, right?
Okay.
So how might we bring the Event Design Certificate program to Taiwan, whilst at the same time making sure that it is supported by the partners and the core organizers at the destination level, so that in the future the common language of event design can also spread freely across Taiwan to really enrich the way that partners can interlink and communicate to each other about event design and spread this further, and at the same time enable us to revisit your beautiful country, which in my memories has the most warm recollections, except for one thing, which was one night at Sun Moon Lake, and it was so cold, and my parents forgot because we live in the Philippines and we were dressed. We thought, we're in Asia, it's a warm destination, and it was snowing, or it was freezing at Sun Moon Lake. And we've never been as cold as we could in such a warm country. Anyway, that's the anecdote about Sun Moon Lake.
It's a beautiful lake.
It is gorgeous.
Still beautiful,
And many honeymooners, I think, go there, or it's like a very romantic place, right? But a beautiful place on the planet, and I fully agree with the Green Lady that we have to cherish, those critical resources and things that we need to look after. Nature is actually one of our core stakeholders that we need to delight.
Right.
I have a podcast episode with a colleague who actually designs with nature as one of the key stakeholders to delight, and I think we can design for that, and we must design for that. So I think on that hopeful note, one last question that I want to pop around the table is:
Okay.
Is there anything after this one first day about design matters? Right, the new theme for this year at IMEX is design matters. Why does design matter to you? Maybe Kitty, if I can start off. Does design matter, or?
Well, just like what Gary just said, I just recently did a report for ECA, for the AP chapter. All the meetings are shrinking because they have more choices. So they have to change. If they didn't change, they just vanished. I mean, some of them vanished very fast. Same thing with the exhibitions. Like the Computex coming up next month. Computex has changed so much over the years. They were starting out as hardware. Now they have software and AI. And it's very difficult to change if you didn't have the backup from the place.
Absolutely.
So change is here to stay. You cannot predict. Maybe next month, it's very difficult to predict. Maybe Trump will invade Cuba.
Cuba.
You don't know.
Let's not manifest any of these scenarios, but...
Well, anyways, I mean, the change is here. If you didn't change, you are bound to be vanished very soon.
Yeah, and talking about nature, change is a nature's law. Huh?
Right.
Yeah, it's perennial by
you
design.
You don't fight that, you go along with it.
Yeah, You absorb it, right?
Right.
From your perspective, Rosa, design matters? Does it matter?
Definitely.
And if so, how?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I think change is the only thing unchanged.
Okay.
And I think for this industry, design is design for change is very important for our industry, especially the industry is changing. Because maybe because of AI and many other things. So for us, we have a forum each year, Asia Minds Forum, and I think I want the forum has a little bit change every year. Not a big change, but a little bit change every year. It's evolved.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of the very first Asia Minds Forum in Asia.
Yeah,
it's been 21 years now.
Celebrates its 20th
first year.
This year is 21st, and they celebrate 20th last year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Imagine turning 21 all over again, right? What a dream. Let me ask you if we can do one thing that might inspire our listeners as well to go into action mode. There's something new we're launching that's called the Event Culture Analysis. What I'd like to do is to run a longitudinal cultural analysis on this very oldest event in Asia Pacific that you were just mentioning as a birthday gift for the 21st birthday of this event.
Okay. Great.
And all we need to do is collaborate on maybe some of the materials, programs from the past editions, and we can run the event culture analysis as a longitudinal study. We will offer it as a gift to your organization.
Thank you so much.
And if we may, I would love to offer it as a gift to our listeners who could then get inspired to discover it, but also see the cultural footprint of an event, which we think is a universal benchmark that we can host across events. We've analyzed over 16,000 events and now have data that can cross-reference a lot of different functions of events. And the indicators of success there, I think, are really useful for us to be able to have a much better grip on the scaffolding of how we design events. And so I'd love to welcome that opportunity. Are you game to do that with us?
Yes, it's a pleasure.
Fantastic. Let's do that. On that positive note, let's wrap up the conversation. I want to thank Kitty, I want to thank Rosa, I want to thank Gerrit for being on our podcast today here at IMEX, taking a precious 35 minutes of your time.
Wow.
But when you have a good conversation, time flies.
Yeah. Definitely.
And so we want to thank the listeners for being with us today. And if you have any questions, may we put your LinkedIn profiles maybe on our... Okay. And we'll make sure that we connect. If people want to connect or have questions about, hosting events in Taiwan and doing that, then you have the right connections made now.
Thank you.
Great.
Excellent.
Thank you, Ruud.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gerrit.
You've been hanging out backstage on Design to Change Designer Conversations. Thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe and share conversations online using hashtag Design to Change and hashtag Event Canvas. Want more thought-provoking content like this? Visit designtochange.online to purchase your copy of Design to Change, elevating your abilities to look and act beyond the now. Don't forget, it's more than just a book. Experience a hard copy, audio format, video format, and even augmented reality. Experience it in your style and format. Tune into our next episodes and hear from more designers and change makers. Until then, we look forward to our next conversation.